Okay, this first question is for both of you. Why do you think that the horror/thriller genre is so impactful when examining reproductive rights and health? Yeah.
That's a big one. Would you like to go first, or do you want me to start?
No, you can start, please.
I think that, especially in the realm of false positive being a psychological thriller, there's so much impact to be had, because the notion that a woman is not the sole executor, an agent of her own body, is quite literally a horror. What has been done to women, not only in terms of forced birth, but in terms of research in the name of medical science. And forgive me for launching into this, but what's been done to Black women, in the history of gynecology. I mean, Zainab, I'm sure that in the same way that Alana and I did, you guys had so many conversations about what this movie was really doing thematically, with each of our characters representing things. Even my character being, an agent for the patriarchy in a dress. Like, good God, it gave me the creeps to play her. And I think this notion that anyone but the person having the experience in the physical body should have a say is something we need to deal with as a society. And you look at what's happening in Texas with Governor Abbott's latest horror show bill and the challenge coming to SCOTUS over Roe v. Wade. It's incredibly important that we have these conversations and also have them honestly and get very real about what happens to women when we're not in the driver's seat.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. What about you, Zainab?
Well, I mean, I completely agree with what Sophia said, but there was also, for me, especially in watching it, the most horrifying thing for me, it was a realization, which was quite horrifying, was so many women, the fact that our first times going to a gynecologist, it's a male. It never occurred to me until I watched that and I suddenly went, wow, that is kind of horrifying, that when we don't go to a female person who essentially has the same plumbing as us. Our first experience with that is quite often a male practitioner. That's the first thing that hit me that I never ever thought about. And I have my younger sister is an OBGYN. But all of us, I'm one of 5 girls, all of us, our first time with our OBGYN was an actual male. And I just thought there was something horrifying for me about that. Looking at it, thinking, shouldn't it be a female? This is a strange man. It's just...
That's so interesting. Thinking about what you just said also brings up for me the reality that women in heteronormative relationships anyway have been so encouraged to perform in some way sexually for men. This is a big conversation we're having, like, Hot Girls Wanted, talking about what porn does to women. And the fact that as a young girl, you have your first experience at the gynecologist with a man, how do you feel emboldened or empowered to ask him questions about your body? And he doesn't have your body. He doesn't have your experience. What it would mean as a young woman to be able to look at an older, wiser woman and say, is this normal? And how do I bring up this conversation? And what do I need to know about whatever, fill in the blank? But we're really robbed of that opportunity. And oh my God, Zainab, you just blew my mind open.
That's the fact. That's what struck me. That's what struck me when I saw the film. I just remember just going, I don't even know what my body looks like at that point from that perspective. And the first person who sees it is a guy who doesn't even know me. And I'm like, what? You don't even know what question to ask. You're just so, I mean, for me, I was just like, this is, and to the point where I couldn't even articulate it mentally what was happening until that moment when I saw the film. And she went, maybe it's because it was Pierce Brosnan doing it. And I was like, whoa. It really stopped me in my tracks.
And it conflates trust with silence and supplication.
Wow.
This is the feeling I had every day on set. We would finish a scene and Alana and I would just get up and go, like, it never ends with this movie. And that's why it's brilliant, because it gets in there in the moment and then thematically, and then days later you're going, and what about this? You know, and that I think is such the mark of an excellent story.
Yeah. Yeah. So many layers.
I've got bumps, ladies. Oh my goodness. You know, Zainab, Grace has such an amazing quote in the film when she's talking about gynecology, that, you know, men covet that power and always under the guise of concern. Wow, that really hit me. And to your point, this film kind of serves as a reminder to women that we need to be able to feel confident to speak up for ourselves, especially when questioning healthcare providers, which is so hard. And to your earlier point, especially when you're a vulnerable young woman talking about your body for the first time.
I mean, you don't even know, you're just learning about your body. You don't even know what your body really looks like. It's a work, it's changing constantly, and you're just mystified as what's going on. And then there's this person who does not own your body who's going to come and tell you about your body.
Exactly.
You know?
Oh my goodness.
And what is that about our society, where shouldn't it be my mother that sits down and tells me about my body, or if she's not around, maybe a female figure who, you know.
Someone trusts someone that you can sort of feel comfortable opening up to, at least. Sophia, you know, Corgan, your character meets Lucy in the Expecting Mommies group, and you love to, not you, I'm sorry, your character loves to say the phrase mommy brain, which, you know, starts off kind of harmless, but then turns into a way to invalidate Lucy's, you know, concerns. How does this show the problematic nature of phrases like mommy brain and others that are so condescending, that we use all the time to describe a woman's mental state?
Well, those are phrases that have been used to disempower us for generations. And you know, to your point about Zainab's character and what she says, there has been a real envy of women's power and women's empathy. And empathy has been weaponized against us as though it's a weakness rather than the greatest human strength. And so this notion that you're sensitive or soft, being bad, actually being sensitive is what kept human beings alive for millennia. Sensitive to changes in climate, sensitive to sounds, to smells. I mean, that literally allowed us to, you know, enter the sort of modern era. And I think for me, understanding the kind of world in which Corrigan was raised, where anytime she brought up a concern, her mother said, "What does your father think?" Or asked a question, her mother said, "Well, let's talk to your father." Corrigan has been steeped, as so many of us have. You know, we are in this great moment of societal learning and unlearning that I think has taken generations of consciousness raising and activism to put us in a place where consciousness is ready and we have the technology at our fingertips to connect. And Corrigan, I shudder when she speaks, because imagine sitting across from your pregnant best friend who said, "I'm scared about what's happening to my body." And your response was, "Well, what did your husband say?" It's like she's been soaking in misogyny tea her whole life. And as a very privileged white woman, whether it's conscious or unconscious, has a very real tether to the proximal power of this, you know, white male heteronormative patriarchy that she benefits from. And I hated playing her so much, but I loved the investigation it allowed. I loved the conversations it allowed Alana and I to have with John. I love the conversations it's allowing all of us to have together. I believe that if we hold a mirror up to the most uncomfortable parts of ourselves or of our society, we have to confront it. And so I think there's so many elements of the requirement to do that in every avenue that this movie, you know, drives down, and it does so many so well. I mean, I wish we'd gotten to work together, because there's so many.
I know.
things and thoughts I have for you that I didn't get to ask you on set.
It's so interesting. I felt the same.
Well, ladies, this was so lovely. I'm sorry. They're asking me to wrap. Congratulations. And I can't wait for the world to see this film and to have those conversations. And just thank you. Thank you for your storytelling.
Thank you. Thank you.